All right. I'm going to introduce myself here, Brian Hogan, and we're here with Hogan Smith. Going to give you some information and a little interview we're having with Rick, and he's going to share his experience and what he does with Social Security Disability for Hogan Smith. So we do it across the country. Love to be able to help you. If someone wants to reach out to us, you can find us on our website, hogansmith.com. We got Rick's email is rick@hogansmith.com. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and just get started. Rick is going to tell us a little about himself, and we can learn about Social Security together.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, Rick Gash, and I've been handling Social Security cases now for about 35 years. That's hard to believe. It's been that
and
long.
You're 37 years old?
And yeah, so I started when I was very young, obviously. But I've probably been to about 4,000 hearings with judges over the years. So I've pretty much seen everything that we could see in Social Security. But I love what I do because at the end of the day, it changes people's lives. It helps them in a big way. And as much as people want to say everybody on Social Security is faking it or they don't deserve it, I haven't found that to be true at all. I mean, it's very, very few. So
sure. Tell me a little about the top 3 questions you get, 3 to 5 questions, and then we're going to cover them as we get through.
Oh, sure. The biggest one is what's the difference between SSI and SSDI? Another one would be why is my age an important factor? Okay. And the other one would be what kind of work I've done in the past. Why does that matter? Okay. So those are important things: age, past work experience, and then what's the difference between SSI and SSDI?
Okay, let's begin with that one. That's a good question. What's SSI? What's SSDI?
So they both have the same criteria for disability benefits to qualify. With SSDI, you have to have enough work credits, so you have to actually pay into Social Security. And the rule of thumb is you have to have a total of 40 quarters, which would be 10 years of work. You can only get 4 credits per year. To get disability insurance benefits, you have to have 20 credits out of the 40. So you have to have 40, and during the 10 years prior to the date of your disability, you have to have 10. So a rule of thumb for us is if someone's worked at least 5 years during the past 10 years prior to the date that they became disabled, they're going to qualify for SSDI.
Okay. 20 credits.
20 credits.
Out of the 40. Okay, gotcha.
Correct. SSI is a needs-based program. It's basically paid to someone who either has never worked or has not worked long enough to earn enough credits, so they haven't paid into Social Security enough to get SSDI. The difference in how they are paid are SSDI is paid based on what you've paid into the system, whereas SSI is a monthly stipend of $943 a month. It's the cap on that. However, they do look at earnings if there's other earnings in the household. If you have certain assets, you can't get SSI. So they look at whether you actually need it. And so they have a needs-based situation where what we call the non-medical aspect of SSI is do you have resources? As a married couple, if you have resources of over $3,000, you cannot get SSI. As a single person, it's $2,000. Resources are things like checking accounts, savings accounts, not your house, not your car, but if you have a second house or a second car, they're going to count that. Whereas with SSDI, you could win the lottery tomorrow and you're still going to be entitled to it.
Okay. What are some of the disabilities that people have? I know I'm not getting your top questions, but get people to go, hey, I think I might have to look into this. This is something that's put us financially not able to support ourselves.
I would say probably the biggest one are back injuries, neck injuries, back injuries. These usually limit people, but I see everything from mental health concerns, from depression, anxiety, PTSD. I see people that have had heart attacks that now they can't go back and do the work they've done in the past because of the stress on their system. Lupus, I mean, we see everything, and it's not just usually with clients, it's not just one thing. It's usually a combination of things. Sure. So they may have hypertension, they may have arthritis, they hurt their back, now it's a combination of factors that we look at.
Is there a sort of rule or a list that the hearing officers that you look at that sort of people should be aware of that are out there about these automatic qualifiers? Here's
Yes.
some ones that sort of maybe you qualify or yeah.
So Social Security has a list of what's called compassionate allowances. So there's like 300 of these
Wow.
diagnoses. And there's mostly certain types of cancers, certain other illnesses. If you meet the criteria as they describe it, they will approve you immediately. The other thing they look at is what we call the listings. Social Security has a listing of impairments that lists all different conditions from back injuries all the way down to blood diseases, mental health conditions. If you meet the criteria exactly as it's laid out, you get disability. The problem is we have a lot of people that actually meet those criteria. They file a claim and Social Security still denies it. So it should be automatic, but it's not. The other thing Social Security looks at is if you're a veteran and you're receiving VA disability benefits, they're supposed to fast track those. And so those are cases that we try to get through quickly, but there's some special rules for those people as well.
And a part of the listings, how do people apply? What's the application process like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Generally, you can apply online. You can call your Social Security office. They'll schedule an appointment where you go in and talk to them. Sometimes they'll actually schedule an appointment for you to talk to them over the phone and apply over the phone. However, with us, that's what we do. We help people with their application. So when you become a client, we actually go online and file your application for you. And the advantage to that is we know what they're looking for. We know exactly what the criteria is, what evidence they need to approve your case. And so part of our job is to develop that evidence and to get that evidence in front of Social Security as early as possible so we can get the case approved.
Okay. What is the process?
Yeah, so the
It's a phone call, it's a letter to you, it's an email to you, what's it?
all of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, call, email, text, whatever works for you. Just get a hold of us and we'll get right on it for you. We'll get the information that we need up front. We're going to get some documents signed that allow Social Security to talk to us and tell us how many credits you have, for example, whether or not you're going to qualify or not. We actually get to go online and see all of your paperwork that Social Security has on you. So we get to see everything, your earnings statement, any medical records that if you've already filed on your own, we can see everything that they have.
Okay. And you caught up to speed really quick.
We get caught up to speed, and then we can kind of see where the gaps are, what's missing. Why isn't Social Security approving the case? For example, a big one that comes up is you have to be disabled for at least 12 consecutive months in order to be eligible for disability. So let's say you just got injured a month ago. Well, you haven't been disabled 12 months. But the rule says if you've been disabled for 12 months or are expected to be disabled for 12 months, that's one of the criteria. So it's simple as getting the doctor to say this is going to last at least 12 months or more.
Gotcha.
So you could have great evidence, but if they don't have that one little thing, and they're not going to ask your doctor for it, we're going to get that for you.
Yeah, right. And of course, the layperson not going to know that themselves. And Social Security in your initial application, you don't really know to get that information, right? Okay,
They don't ask it.
They don't ask it. Yeah, sure. Talk a little bit about you mentioned the second issue being age. Tell us a little bit how age comes into play.
Yeah, so as you get older, the ability to adjust to another occupation becomes much more difficult. Plus, it becomes less feasible for someone to retrain you. For example, if you've been in construction for 30 years, that's all you've ever done, and now you're 56 years old and you have a back injury, well, now you can't do construction work. So are we going to find a sedentary job, a sit-down job that you can do from the skills that you have from construction? Probably not. Right. So Social Security has age-weighted rules. We call them grid rules. If you're over 55, the rules are pretty relaxed. Makes it a lot easier. If you're between 50 and 55, it's a little bit harder. If you're under 50, it's very difficult. But we get those people approved all the time.
Yeah.
So as you get older, it's harder for you to adjust to other work, and so Social Security's built that into their criteria.
Okay. How does that apply with Social Security income, the SSI?
Same. That's the good thing is SSI and disability SSDI have the same criteria for disability. The only difference is how you're going to get paid, whether it's going to be based on your earnings or this flat $943 that Social Security currently pays for SSI.
Okay, very good. Whenever you mentioned the third issue, I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head, age, SSI, SDI, and your
Past work. Your past work is a huge factor.
Okay.
Because let's say, like I said, the construction worker, his doctor releases him to go back to work, and let's say he says you can only do light work, or all your job in the past has been heavy work, which would be lifting over 50 pounds. So if you're a construction worker, you're not just going to be able to go find a light job, generally speaking.
Sure.
So the higher the exertion level of your past work, the easier it is for us to get you disability. So for example, if let's say the same person is, say, an engineer that sits at a desk, say, for 6 hours out of an 8-hour day, if that person is still limited to sedentary work, they're still going to be able to do their job most times.
Right.
So
can you explain the difference on heavy duty, light duty?
absolutely.
Yeah, what's that?
That's a good one. Social Security has what we call exertion levels. It starts with the lowest, which is sedentary. Sedentary work involves never lifting more than 10 pounds, but having the ability to sit for at least 6 hours of an 8-hour day.
Okay.
So, and we have a lot of clients sometimes that can't sit for that long,
Right.
for whatever reason. Light work is anything over 10 pounds but less than 25 pounds. So if your job requires you to lift 20 pounds, for example, even if it's just one time, you're considered to be in the light exertion level. You might have a job that where you don't do any lifting, but you're standing at least 50% of the day. That would be a light job as well. Medium work is lifting between 25 and 50 pounds. So if your job requires you to lift, say, 30 pounds, you're doing a medium job according to Social Security. Heavy work is anything over 50 to 100. Very heavy is over 100. And it's not that you're doing that all the time. It's even if you have to do it just one time in your job requires you to do that. Like we get a lot of times, we get nurses. They may not move patients all the time, but they have to have the ability to do that in case of an emergency. So we see the exertion level. The other thing Social Security looks at is what's called skill levels. Skill levels would be unskilled work, semi-skilled work, and skilled work. Skilled work would be like an architect, an engineer, an accountant, somebody that has to have a lot of training or experience. Unskilled work would be like a toll booth attendant. There's thousands of jobs where you just sit and say maybe work on an assembly line. You're doing the same thing over and over again. Those are unskilled jobs. Most jobs fall in between unskilled and skilled, so they're usually going to be semi-skilled work. It's a rating system that they use. It's called Specific Vocational Preparation, SVP. So it has an SVP level from 1 to 9. 1, if it's an SVP of 1, it's unskilled. If it's a 9, it's skilled, and then everything else is kind of in between.
Right.
So when we go to a hearing with Social Security, they will have a vocational expert at the hearing to tell the judge what your work was, whether it was heavy work, medium work, light work, whether it was unskilled or sedentary. So those are factors that the judge has to consider when looking at the disability claim.
Okay. Good points. Let's talk about sort of the process. Let's talk about what it looks like for a person for the first time applying. What the windows look like. Let's say the first 30 days or the first days with you. What's the someone calls in and they say, "Hey, I want to talk to you." It's a 10-minute phone call. You're filling out forms. What's happening?
Yeah, initially it's about a 10 to 15 minute call, And then from that information, we can determine whether or not your case is a case that we feel would be successful. We don't want to lead you down the road and you end up getting denied.
Yeah.
So we're really looking for people that we feel that can meet the criteria. So it's about a 10 to 15 minute initially, and then from there, I mean, we're going to get a lot of information from you. We will need to know all about the work you've done in the past, and most people don't have just one job. Maybe they've done 3 or 4 jobs. We look at the last 15 years of your employment. This is called your past relevant work. The other thing we look at is all of your medical conditions. We're going to need a list of all of your medical providers, even for conditions that you feel might not be related.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might have a back injury, but maybe you have high blood pressure, or maybe you have diabetes. It's under control, but you also have another illness.
Yeah.
So we look at everything, and so we have to get all that information so that we can get your medical records from your providers, and we can start developing your case. So we would initially get that information. We would have you sign documents that allow us to represent you, allow us to.
Are there any fees? Sorry, real quick. Is there any fees in charge at that point? that the
There's
clients-
no charge, no fees. The only time that you will pay us a fee is if you are awarded past due benefits.
Okay.
So if we take your case and say, it's 6 months later and it's denied, you don't get any benefits, you don't pay anything until we get paid. So we're going to try to make sure you get paid because we'd like to get paid as well.
Right, sure.
So it's a contingency contract, 100%. There's nothing up front, just your time.
Right. This is all can be done online and sign documents through email, or is it a FedEx package? How do you?
Most of it's online. We can send you an email, and you can sign it right on your smartphone, your tablet, your computer, whatever you have access to. Your email will allow you to go on and sign the documents that we need. And so typically when a client reaches out to us and we make a decision to take their case, we have all the documents we need from them the same day within a couple hours. It's not a complicated process. Then once we get that back, if we're filing an application, we can tell you that typically there's good news and bad news. The good news, we'll get your application in quickly. The bad news is it may sit at Social Security for a while due to a backlog that they currently have due to COVID. Prior to COVID, it would take 1 to 3 months to get an answer on an initial application.
Right.
Since they reopened their offices in July of 2022, it's taking approximately 7 to 12 months to get an answer on the initial application.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's where we come in. We want to be bugging them as much as possible. We want to be that person that's just constantly sending them updated records, getting stuff in front of them so that they can say, look, this is an easy one. Let's get this one out of the way. Their backlog is primarily due to a lot of their employees did not return after COVID, after they reopened. So they have a shortage of employees, and so that's a problem. So under the best case scenario, 1 to 3 months, we get your case approved. Worst case scenario, we're waiting 7 to 12 months. If we happen to get your case approved, that's great. If not, if they send you a denial, don't worry, we're going to appeal that. We have 60 days from the date we receive that denial notice to file an appeal. So that's a real important number. Then we file what's called a request for reconsideration. They assign it to somebody totally different, and they review it, make a decision. It could be another 3 to 6 months. If they happen to deny it again, then we can request a hearing with the judge.
Okay.
The good news on the judges, you can get the judges generally schedule the hearing within 3 to 4 months after we request the hearing. Prior to COVID, that was the problem. It would take, believe it or not, almost 2 years to get a hearing from the time we requested it. So we'd already been in the system for a while. So what's happened is the cases are backlogged at the lower levels, the initial and the reconsideration, and now the judges aren't getting the cases as fast, so they're able to turn them around faster.
Okay.
So that's the good news.
Okay.
And honestly, that's where most cases get approved.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So a lot of times we have clients Social Security denies almost 80% of the initial applications and the reconsiderations. And it's very depressing because you know you can't work, you've provided everything to Social Security, and here someone's telling you, someone at Social Security who's never talked to you, who's never seen you, they're saying, oh, you can go do this job, and you know you can't. So it's just don't give up, just hang in there, because eventually we'll get in front of a judge where a judge is actually going to see you and hear from you directly about why you can't work, and that's typically where your case is going to get approved.
Okay. Good. I think you gave me the first initial timeline. You'll get the application done in the first 2 to 4 weeks, essentially, after someone's interviewed?
So after they interview us, once we get the information from them, we'll have it done. So if we, within a day or two. It's not going to take a couple weeks.
And then you'll supplement with medical records and wage and earning records you'll accumulate over the following weeks?
Correct. We want to get that application in the system as soon as we can, because what's going to happen is it's going to sit there, and nobody at Social Security is actually going to look at it. So we get the application in, we get your information, we're going to get the forms ready for you, because what happens, Social Security is going to send you these forms to complete. A work history report form, a pain questionnaire if you have pain. They have all these questionnaires. They have a questionnaire for everything.
Gotcha.
So we get you to do that up front. So whenever they do request it, we can send it in. It's right there.
Okay, good.
In addition to getting the medical records.
Right. And this is whether a client is in the southeast or out west?
It's a national
Northeast,
system,
okay.
yes. So it's a federal program, so it is the same everywhere.
Yeah.
There are a couple states that have a supplement to the SSI where they actually pay a little bit extra. Some of the Commonwealth states in the Northeast, like Pennsylvania and I believe Massachusetts, they have an additional amount that they pay if you're on SSI only.
Gotcha. So let's take, where are the hearings, where are the application done? So if I'm out west right now and I said, all right, Rick, I like this, let's work together. You're going to file out west, it's going to be in their state, in their local area?
Correct.
Yeah.
So each part of the country has what's called a field office, and that's where they process your initial application. That's where they actually pay out benefits. That's where they do all their internal business. So we file with that field office, and there's field offices all throughout the country. When we file that application, though, the field office looks at the application to make sure it's complete, and then they give it to what's called DDS, Disability Determination Services. This is a part of Social Security that has doctors, adjudicators, and they look at all the evidence that we've given them, and they make the decision. So someone at your field office is not making the decision on your case.
Gotcha.
They're just going to make sure it's processed properly. Yeah. If you're awarded, they're going to be in charge of getting you paid as well.
Okay. And we're in this 7 to 12 month period. They've been given off from the field office to someone to make the determination.
Right.
And at that point, are you just sort of in a waiting pattern? We're waiting for your office and the clients. They're get this letter that's going to come down the road.
So they will assign your case to what's called an adjudicator, and they'll send a letter to you from that adjudicator saying, "I'm the person that is responsible for your case." When we get that letter, we know that somebody's actually working on it, and that's when we really want to move fast. We want to cooperate fully with DDS. Their adjudicators may reach out to you for information. We encourage you to give them whatever information they ask for. It's okay to talk to them, but call us after you've talked to them.
Okay.
And if you talk to somebody at Social Security, a good rule of thumb is to always ask for their name and their extension number. That way we know who to call back.
Yeah. What information you can help supplement for them or answer questions.
And also we can go on and we can tell the adjudicator about your case and kind of get something in their ear to maybe think about getting the case fast-tracked and getting it approved quickly. Because a person that's not represented, their case is just sitting there, the adjudicator's looking at it, let's just get this through. And we're in their ear all the time.
Yeah, sure, good. Helping explain the process, why you deserve to get the benefits.
Basically
right?
advocating for you.
Yep, yep. During those months, are we able to work at all, or are we just going to doctor visits and then letting you know and getting you the records? What are we doing during
That's
that time?
a great question.
Yeah.
That's a big question I get asked all the time. With SSDI, you can actually work as long as you make less than $1,550 per month. So that would probably be like a part-time job. So you can actually work. Most of our clients, though, 95% of them are not going to work at all. So you're sitting there with all the time in the world.
You had back surgery.
Yes.
You're trying to recover. Yeah.
Yes. But I always encourage clients to try to work if they can. And for a couple of reasons. Number one, that's the right thing to do. Number two is if you try to work and you can't, it just shows that you're trying.
Yeah.
Somebody at Social Security is going to look at that and say, at least this person's trying.
Yeah.
They've tested their employability. And I think it's good evidence for us in a case.
Sure.
For sure. So yeah, we have clients that are working, but most people are not. Now SSI, if you work, any monies that you make will come off of that $943 per month.
Okay.
As income, so it would reduce your benefit. However, I always tell people, like I said, if you feel like you can do something, go do something. It's the best thing for you anyway, if you can. It doesn't hurt to test your employability.
Yeah.
People that come to us, generally speaking, can't work at all.
Yeah. Right.
They're having a hard time sleeping at night because of pain.
Yeah.
They have to lay down during the day. Maybe it's a mental impairment where they can't be around people for whatever reason.
Sure.
Maybe they have depression, and there's a lot of things that contribute to your inability to work.
Sure.
The other thing happens when you do have a physical impairment, we often see someone with a mental impairment.
Sure.
You've never had any type of problems with depression or anxiety. Now all of a sudden you've lost your livelihood, you can't work, you have a family, you have children. That builds on you, and so we always encourage our clients to seek mental health treatment if they can, if they're having those issues.
All right. Let's fast forward. We're now in that 7 to 12 month period. We got an answer that says not successful. Sorry,
Yes.
you're getting denied. Or somebody, I know this happens to you, there's been people that call and said, I got a letter. I tried all this on my own, and I wasn't successful. What happens during that period of time?
Excellent question. So that happens a lot, actually. Clients will call us after they've done the initial application, they've jumped through all the hoops that Social Security asks them to jump through, and they get this denial from Social Security. And they think, what am I going to do now? Well, we can help you at that point, too, as long as we appeal within 60 days. There's going to be a date stamp right on that denial notice. We'll have 60 days from that date. Now, if for some reason you've waited and it's 70 days, call us anyway, because there are some exceptions to that. If we can show good cause for not filing it timely, we can get that time period extended.
Yeah.
So if you've received a denial notice, whether it be your first denial notice or a second denial notice, you really need us at that point,
Right.
for sure.
Sure. What if it's been 6 months and I totally forgot about it, and now I'm like, I'm going to go try it again. Starting from day one, starting over on stage one?
So typically when clients call us with that issue, we look at whether or not we can find good cause to reopen their application. Social Security has a rule that we can reopen an application within 1 year for good cause. So good cause would be maybe I moved and Social Security sent my denial notice to the wrong address.
Okay.
Or maybe I was in the hospital when the denial notice came in, or somebody smashed my mailbox one night and I didn't get my mail.
Yeah, okay.
So there's reasons. But if we can't find good cause, then we're going to file a new application.
So now we're past the 5 months. We're a year and a half through this process approximately. We've had this again. How long till we get to that judge, that adjudicator that we're going to see?
Yeah, so the first one is going to take, as a general rule, 9 months. Say you get the denial, another 4 or 5 months.
Right.
Now we have the denial. We're filing the request for hearing. We should have a hearing within 90 to 120 days, 3 to 4 months.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about that process. So far we have, let's go typically in a legal proceeding. We've had no depositions. You don't have a mediation. No attorney on the other side's asking you questions or anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Social Security is a non-adversarial administrative process. So it's non-adversarial means that there's not an attorney representing Social Security. So when we go to a hearing, the only people that are present would be the judge, this vocational expert, the client, and the representative would be there. Mm-hmm. There's not someone there trying to cross-examine you or trick you. There's no need to do depositions or mediations. Yeah. We just get an opportunity to have our day in court, let the judge hear what's going on.
Yeah.
So.
And hear from the vocational expert. And any doctors testify? Do you have physicians? Medical records speak for themselves?
Very rarely, yeah. So typically what we do at hearing level is we have a form that we're going to send to your doctor, or we're going to ask you to take to the doctor to complete. It's called an RFC questionnaire. RFC stands for residual functional capacity. And it's a real easy form for your doctor to complete. They don't have to do a lot of writing. They can just check off on the boxes. Get that to us. We'll get it to the judge. And generally speaking, yeah, the judge is looking at what you tell them at the hearing, what you've told them in all these questionnaires that you've completed, and then what's on your medical record. So if you're telling the judge, I have to lay down every day for 3 hours because of pain, and you're telling your doctor that you feel great, you've never felt better, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that we're consistent with what we're telling the doctor, and so that when we get to the hearing, everything's going to match up. Yeah. That's what judges are looking at.
We're at a hearing. Everybody's appearing live. Everyone's appearing on a telephone. We're appearing on Zoom. How do we
so
nowadays?
Since COVID, we have the option of doing the hearing 3 ways. We can do it by telephone, where the judge just gets all the parties on the phone. And we do it right from your house. You don't even have to come to our office. So we're on the phone. Or we can do a video hearing on Microsoft Teams. Okay. Same thing. You're going to be at your house. We'll be at our office. The judge will be at their office. Or we can do an in-person hearing. Mm-hmm. I used to say always do in-person hearings, but I'm kind of getting away from that because I think the judges really like to do either the video hearings or the phone hearings.
Sure.
Because then they don't have to go into the office.
Yeah.
And they can work from home. So,
right.
So I haven't found any correlation between doing it by phone, video, or in person. I don't think there's any advantage to doing it one way or another. One of the things I like about the video hearing and the telephone hearing is that you don't have to drive to go to the hearing. You get to the hearing office, say your hearing's at 11:30, while the judge is behind 2 hours. So now you're sitting there for 2 hours, and you're in pain. You know, maybe you need to take your medication, whatever. So when you're at home, it just seems like it's much more comfortable.
Yeah, sure.
So
those Teams hearings are beneficial. It sounds like
yes,
right,
correct,
right.
And they're really easy. You don't have to be tech savvy to do it. You just need a smartphone or a tablet or computer. That's one of the things we'll do. We'll do a practice run on the video, make sure you know how to run the program, make sure you know what to do when your time comes to have your hearing.
Right. You're obviously having a conversation with the clients, getting them prepared all the way up until the day before. Hey, here's the conversation. Here's the judge's most likely questions. Here's the issues they've had.
By the time we get to a hearing, we are going to run at least twice a practice session of every question that either the judge is going to ask or I'm going to ask at the hearing. Mm-hmm. The vocational expert won't ask you any questions. The judge and I will ask that person questions, but yes, we'll go through everything because I don't like surprises. I don't like to get there and I don't know what you're going to say. Plus, you need to understand the questions sometimes can be a little bit tricky, a little bit complicated. It may sound like the judge is asking you one thing. We need you to understand the question so you answer it correctly. For example, the judge might say, how long can you sit in an office chair at one time.
Mm-hmm.
So he said one time. He didn't say how long you could sit all day. So that might be 30 minutes. Or the judge might say, how much can you lift, and not clarify that. And you say, well, I can lift 20 pounds. Well, yeah, you might be able to lift 20 pounds at one time, but could you lift 20 pounds for 6 hours in an 8-hour day? Probably not.
Right.
So there's a reason the judge is asking these questions, and our job is to make sure you understand the question so that your answer is accurate.
Yeah, right. Sure. How long is a hearing? You're there in front of the judge, you're on the Zoom call, the Teams call?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. It varies. It depends on the judge. Typically, I would say the fastest, shortest time would be 15 minutes.
Right.
And I've had those types of hearings where I've walked in, the judge maybe called me back to his chambers before the hearing and said, look, we don't need to do a whole lot of questions on this one.
Right. I don't know why they didn't approve it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That happens. Doesn't always happen, but it happens. Up to maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Generally, it's never going to go over an hour. And it won't be an hour of asking you questions because we have the vocational expert that is going to ask questions. There's going to be a part of the hearing at the beginning where we're talking about the evidence in the file. If there's all the evidence is up to date, if there's something that maybe we tried to get, we couldn't get, we let the judge know about that. I typically will make a very short opening statement for the judge to kind of give him a heads up of what the case is about.
What criteria we think we've met that would qualify.
What our theory of disability is and why we think you're disabled. Then the judge will swear you in, ask you a few questions, but most judges let the representative ask the questions. So the judge is listening to the answers. They'll be sitting on their desk typing or taking notes, and it'll feel like maybe they're not paying attention to you, but they are. Yeah. They're listening to every word you're saying. They may interrupt and ask for clarification on certain things. The great thing is the rules of procedure are very relaxed. The questions that we ask, we kind of ask in a leading way, so we kind of pull you from question to question. So generally, as I talk to clients, I tell them just listen to the question and answer the question. Right. Don't provide additional information unless we ask for it.
Right.
And we will, because there's going to be things that you'll want to tell the judge about your conditions, maybe things that you do at home that you have problems with that help the judge understand. So I don't know if I'm getting off the subject, but the hearing, we definitely will prepare you for that hearing, maybe over-prepare you. A lot of times I'll talk to clients that first time that I'm talking to them, and I'll say, I wish the judge was listening in on this, because they would get it. They would know what's going on, because most clients just tell the truth and not exaggerate, but don't minimize your problems either. Sure. Just tell it like it is. Don't the judge is there to listen to what you have to say. And I think most judges, at the end of the day, they're not looking at denying your case. They're looking at how can they approve the case. Does this person meet the criteria? I don't think they want to deny your case. They just have to have the right information.
Right. And you're having a conversation basically with the judge to explain, here's the right information you needed.
And we have the file, and typically we will send a short brief to the judge about a month before the hearing, telling the judge what the case is all about, what our theory of the case is. Unfortunately, I've walked into many hearings where the judge, I just read your brief just 5 minutes ago. Just make this a short one. So that happens. But we're going to do everything to make sure the judge knows what your case is about, because the judge has a tough job too. The judge typically is doing anywhere from 6 to 8 hearings a day that day, and these case files are anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000 pages of medical evidence, and so the judge. I don't think the judge has the time to really go through every little detail.
Right.
Where we do, and we're going to make sure that the judge knows the details.
Right. What are the, I guess 2 questions. Let's cover the easy one first. That time period, it takes 15 minutes to an hour. Judge makes a decision right then. You get a decision in the mail. What call? Would that
Yeah,
be
we
some-
wish. We wish the
Okay.
judge would give us a decision
Right.
right then and there, but they rarely do. Very,
Okay.
very rarely. And honestly, I think a lot of times the judges don't know what their decision is right at the end because maybe they're not as prepared
Right.
for the hearing. So they'll take that testimony that you've just given, go back and look at the record and see how that compares to what they've read in your medical records. But they typically issue a written decision. That decision typically comes within 30 to 60 days.
Okay. 60 days. All right, let's that piggyback on question number 2 then. Their decision is a financial one. They're going to say approval, and then they're going to have a dollar amount that approves, and what's all that?
Yeah, so the
encompass?
judges, good, very good question. I get asked that a lot at the
Yeah.
hearing. The judge is only going to decide whether you're disabled or not. The
Okay.
judge isn't going to determine how much money you get. That's an administrative question for that local office. If you're over 55, they have what they call payment centers in different parts of the country where they try to fast track those people because if you're over 55, maybe let's say you're 62 or 63, maybe you've already applied for retirement benefits. So they want those are special cases that they look at. But no, Social Security will determine what your benefit amount is. We will have all the information. They'll send us what's called a notice of award that will detail exactly how they calculated how much your past due benefit is.
When do you get that notice of award?
Typically, we get it within a couple weeks after we get the decision from the judge
Okay.
approving your case.
Do you have sort of your own assessment of what the award should be?
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
when do you get that, or when do you
So
accumulate that?
yeah, we generally don't get that until the hearing is, till we file the request for hearing and what we call the exhibit file has been worked up by the hearing office where they actually number all the exhibits. They put in what's called a certified earnings statement that shows your actual earnings going back to, say, if you were 14
Yeah.
working, it goes the whole way back. And it'll tell us what your PIA is, which stands for personal insured amount, and what your family maximum is. And that's a higher amount in case you have children or you have dependents under the age of 18, they could be entitled to benefits as well.
Okay.
The difference, again, on Social Security disability and SSI, disability benefits can be paid retroactive 12 months prior to the date of your application. So if you're filing today, maybe you thought you were going to get better, you didn't want to apply, you applied later, they can go back 12 months and pay you. SSI is only paid from the date of your application forward. So, that's the other reason we encourage you to, if you think you're not going to be able to work, if you're not going to be able to do your job, at least call us so we can tell you, this
Right.
is, you probably should apply or not.
Yeah. Gotcha. And calling is at the 800 number at 1-800-514-6426, 800-514-6426, or they can go on your website, hogansmith.com, to find that number. And emailing, how are they going to email you?
They can email me at rick@hogansmith.com, and that'll pop up on my screen, and either myself or one of our assistants will call you right away.
Yeah.
But I will talk to you early on
Right.
because I want to be able to hear about your case and hear about
Right.
your situation so that I understand where we need to go from
Right.
that initial call.
Brief form to fill out on the website? They
There
go-
is a form,
Okay.
and that's the great thing about technology today is you can go online and give us pretty much all the information that we need.
Yeah.
You can do it on your smartphone, type it in, or if you're not comfortable doing that, we'll call you. We'll go through that form basically on
Fill
our
it out
end
for
and
you.
fill it out
Yeah.
for you and file the appropriate documents with Social Security.
Okay. So tell me about some special circumstances when people get disability do you help when someone needs disability for minors? Tell me about that.
Yes. So if you have a child or you are a child under the age of 18 and you have a disability, maybe you have a learning impairment, maybe you're struggling at school, you've taken tests at school, you're given an IEP at school, an individualized educational plan where they give you extra time or whatever. Social Security has a set of rules for children.
Okay.
And so we can get what's called children's SSI benefits.
And parents step in for them and get a hold of you and say, here,
Correct.
let's go through this. Okay.
Correct. There's also a benefit called disabled adult child benefits. So let's say you're an adult, say you're 19, you've been receiving SSI, and now you turn 18, so they stop paying SSI because now they say you're an adult, you don't meet the criteria. You want to give us a call at that point as well. If one of your parents is receiving any type of Social Security benefits, whether that be retirement benefits, disability benefits, maybe if you have a parent that has died, unfortunately, we can get benefits for you based on their earnings. So let's say you're 23, you've never worked, but you've been disabled since you were a child. If we can prove that you were disabled before age 22, we can get you disability benefits based on your parents' earnings and not your earnings.
Okay.
So we get a lot of those cases. Children's cases, definitely call us because we're going to help you advocate for your child too. We see a lot of times parents who they know their child has a problem, the school doesn't necessarily agree with them, and we get a lot of clients that just aren't in there to fight for their child because it's a tough system.
Yeah.
And so we can kind of point you in the right direction, tell you what needs to happen at school so that we have the criteria met for Social Security as well.
Yeah.
And judges, believe it or not, they typically really like to help kids out when they can.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Let's see. What have we not covered? I think we've covered a lot, Rick.
I know. We went through pretty much everything. Right. So
I have to rewind and watch it again, watch different topics, especially.
a big thing that comes up a lot of times in these cases is someone is, say, they're age 62, and let's say they had an injury, now they can't work.
What age can you not get it? Is there an age like
Yes.
Okay.
Once you reach full retirement age, whatever that is for you based on your date of birth, for me it's 67 and a half. Once you hit 67 and a half, if you're on disability, it's going to turn over to retirement benefits. So they'll convert it to retirement. So you cannot receive disability benefits from Social Security after your full retirement age.
Okay.
So what happens, we get clients
What's
that,
the lowest full retirement age?
well, you could start getting early retirement at age, the earliest?
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe if you were born in the 30s and 40s, you could get it at age 65.
Okay. I didn't know if it was 62 or 65.
You could get early retirement at age 62. The problem with early retirement is you're going to get a lower percentage.
Right.
So if you wait till
people
your
wait.
full retirement
Yeah.
age, you're going to get 100%, but maybe you're just in a situation where you can't wait. So the good news is if we have someone that's in that age criteria, they can apply for their early retirement at the same time we're filing for their Social Security disability benefit. And if they get approved for disability, any monies that they have paid from the retirement benefit will be reclassified to disability, and it'll be like they never took early retirement.
Wow.
So it'll
That's
extend that out. So
Yeah.
the only bad thing about getting benefits and filing for disability at the same time is if, for whatever reason, we don't get you approved, it's irrevocable. You have to stay with the early retirement. But if we get you approved, they'll reclassify everything for you.
Wow. And then you can still get full retirement to 67.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
That's great. Good stuff. Trying to think the other stuff. Any other hot topics we've missed? Some other common questions?
I think that, how can you help? I always tell clients that you have to help me help you.
Right.
And so what I mean by that is help get us as much information as possible. Every time you see a new doctor, let us know.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're bothering us. That's what you're paying us for.
Yeah.
If you have a change in medication, give us a call or text us. Let us know what's going on so that we can help you.
Yeah.
So the more you become involved in your case, I think the better in these cases.
Sure. And good point. I know it's a common phrase I say too. It's what we get paid to do, or what we're getting paid for. how exactly are your fees? How are they paid? Do you ever get I think you said already, you don't ever get a check from a client.
Correct.
And how about the vocational expert? Who pays for that?
So Social Security pays for the vocational expert at the hearing. They have several thousand of these throughout the country, and so they assign them randomly. And the first thing the judge asks them is if they've ever talked to you before, if they know you,
Right.
if they can be impartial in their testimony.
Right.
Usually the vocational experts are very fair because they know that if they say the wrong thing, I'm going to catch them on it.
Yeah.
And I do. I catch them on
Yeah.
it all the time. I've had vocational experts change their testimony from one thing to another simply by calling them on it.
Yeah,
so
sure.
so it's usually pretty good. Now our fees, we don't get paid anything unless Social Security approves it.
Right.
So you couldn't even come to us and say, here's $100 extra for helping me. We cannot accept that. So Social Security approves our fee. Our fee is the lesser of $7,200 or 25% of your past due benefits. So, for example, if you receive past due benefits of $10,000, the fee would be $2,500. Let's say you got $100,000. Maybe you've been waiting several years. Our fee would not be $25,000. It would be $7,200. The other good thing is your money does not come through our office. Social Security is going to send your part of your past due benefits directly to you, and they'll send the fee that we're entitled to directly to us. So you're not going to have to wait for our checks to clear the bank. You're going to get it right away.
Right.
Social Security is going to require you to have an account, a checking account or savings account that they can direct deposit. If you're not able to get that, then they'll issue a government card that they can direct deposit into every month. So they don't like doing checks anymore.
Right. So you'll get maybe in this scenario you just mentioned, you maybe get a first initial, hey, let's pay for all the back stuff.
Right.
We didn't have approval in this 1.5-year process that you had to go through your denials and ultimate approval. And then you'll start getting a monthly check, or what's
Correct.
Does that come on the first of the month, or what's?
It depends on your birthday. Generally, they come on the 3rd and the 13th of the month is what I've seen. So they'll tell you in this notice of award, they'll tell you exactly how they calculated your past due benefits, what your benefit will be, and when your first check will come in. They'll also tell you about Medicare. You might be eligible for Medicare. Once you've been disabled for 24 months, you become eligible for Medicare. So if you've already 24 months into the system, you're going to be eligible right away, and some of it's retroactive in case you have medical bills that need to be paid. So that's the other thing we'll help you with, is making sure that you get your Medicare so that you have good insurance, so you're not paying on your own.
Yeah.
It's totally optional. You don't have to get it, but for most people, it's the best thing to do.
Yeah, benefit. In those months leading up to the ultimate decision by a judge, who's paying medical bills? I mean, it varies, obviously. Who's taking care of those doctor visits and getting those criteria filled?
Unfortunately, a lot of our clients are without insurance, so they've lost their job. They couldn't afford the COBRA payment. So if that's your situation, that's another reason to call us, because we can point you to some free medical clinics, to some places where you can go to get adequate care, free of charge or at a reduced rate. Because without that medical documentation, we are not going to be able to prove your case. So that's something we see a lot. Now, if you have minor children, you're going to be eligible for Medicaid. So we'll help you do that as well, so that you at least have Medicaid. You can go see the doctor.
Great. Well, excellent, Rick. Yeah, you covered a lot, brother.
Yeah, we did.
We
covered everything. I think I was talking fast too.
So get a hold of you, Rick at hogansmith.com. Go to the website, fill out some forms if they have that. Call the office. You're happy. You and your staff will answer questions all day long, right?
Yes, that's what we're there for. And we get a big kick out of getting people approved. And when we get that decision from Social Security or the judge, and we get to call the client and say, you've been approved, that's the best part of my job. I love that part. And so it takes some work up until that point, us working together, like I said, so we could get this moving for you.
Great.
So don't wait. Give us a call.
Yeah. going to also, I guess, in conclusion, you're going to have some videos, some of the short videos we'll put together here.
Absolutely.
People can go watch those, get maybe specifics on the topics they have.
For sure.
So visit the other YouTube or on our website. We'll have them on there for them.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good thing for clients because
Yeah.
they can go on, and if they get this form in the mail, we'll tell you exactly what they're looking for and
Right.
what you need to put down and how to answer the questions, and some things to maybe look out for.
Yeah,
So.
sure. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. Glad you spent some time with us today. Hopefully, Rick just got a little taste for you about what we can do at Hogan Smith for you on Social Security cases. So look forward to working for you.
Thanks.
Boom. That was awesome, brother. I love it, right? Good start. Khalil goes, oh, the mic's weren't on.
Yeah.
Actually, we're recording the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That was just